Today's conversation is sponsored by the Billy Keels Advisory Program. If you want to learn more about how to make your 9-to-5 optional, just go to billykeels.com/advising. Once again, that's billykeels.com/advising.
You don't have to hit a home run in exchange. You've already hit a home run in the property you're selling, likely, especially if you've got, several $100,000 extra in appreciated equity. So it's not about hitting a home run. It's about hitting another nice single or a double or whatever to get you another level in your wealth building journey. I'll say that.
You're listening to the Going Long podcast with Billy Keels, the #1 podcast for long-distance real asset investing.
Welcome to the Going Long podcast. We're back once again to continue to help to educate you so you feel much more comfortable as well as confident investing beyond your backyard. And yes, I'm your host, Billy Keels, and I am really, really looking forward to you listening or watching today's conversation because it's absolutely awesome. You're going to get so much out of this, especially if you're trying to figure out, hey, listen, you've got a big capital gains event and you want to try and figure out how you can, figure out a strategy, a vehicle that can help you kick the can down the road. Guess what? Today's a conversation for you. And you know what? For those of you who continue to share across social media, you're screen sharing, you're posting on LinkedIn, you're posting on Facebook or Instagram, thank you for continuing to do that. Feel free to do more of that and make sure you tag us when you do it because we love being able to know because we'll respond back to you. So screenshots, sharing, and tag us. We'll let you know. Also, for those of you who continue to leave your honest written reviews as well as ratings, thank you very much. If you've not had a chance to do that yet, there's a quick little video here. We'll show you exactly how to do it on the Apple Podcast platform. Lastly, if you want to check out any of the episodes, video, audio, ever, go to firstgencp.com/podcasts and you can find every single episode that's ever been released. Once again, firstgencp.com/podcasts. And as for today, there is a vehicle that many of you may have never heard of. But today, if you're looking for, in your commercial real estate business, a way to continue to defer your taxes, we're going to talk about a strategy that's pretty popular today. We're going to talk to a guy named Alex Olson, and he's going to talk to us about the 1031 exchange and how you can use it to make sure that your commercial real estate portfolio is performing, and also how you can include this as one of your strategies. So we'll get to that conversation just after this. So, you know what? If you've ever wanted to know how the 1031 exchange can serve you and your long distance investing success, then guess what? Today's the conversation that you're going to want to listen to until the very last word. You know why? Because today's guest, listen to this. Not only did he start out professionally in the multimedia area as a designer, I really want to find out more about this. He also had national and international business experience as the CEO of a media company. Wow, this is getting even more and more interesting. He also has had a number of roles from economics tutor to VP of marketing in numerous companies. And today he is the senior RE real estate broker at Exchange Commercial Real Estate. And he is the principal at Blue Equity Investments. It gives me great pleasure to welcome to today's conversation, Mr. Alex Olson. Alex, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks for having me on. This is awesome.
I'm so looking forward to having this conversation with you, man. I know you're going to add so much value to the entire Going Long family, and it's going to be packed full of actionable tips. So here's the thing, Alex. I think I told you before, but you're going to get 5 questions in today's conversation, at least 5 questions. You're going to get 2 in the beginning. You're going to get 3 on the tail end as well. And in the middle, you're probably going to get a lot of questions. I just don't know what those questions are yet. So I want for the Going Long family to start to get to know you. So the very first question, so we can start to get to know you, Alex, help us understand, where is it that you call home in the U.S.?
Yeah, so I am located in the central part of the U.S., almost the middle of the map in Kansas City, Missouri. If you were to say, what's the central part? What's the biggest central city? Kansas City, Missouri is it. 2.2 million people, 3-hour flight to anywhere in the U.S. or less. That includes, it doesn't include, of course, Alaska or Hawaii, but it includes the coast, heart of the Midwest, the plains, whatever you want to call it. But Kansas City is where I call home.
All right, fantastic. And little known fact, everybody, I used to live on the other side of the state, but this isn't about me today. This is about Alex in Kansas City and those 2.2 million people, which I think is awesome. So Alex, here's the thing. Also would love you to continue with some positivity. Help us understand, what is the most positive thing that's happened to you in the last 24 hours?
The best thing that happened to me was this morning, I got to take my oldest daughter to her first choir practice at her elementary school. And she was nervous about it. Where do I go? Who do I go? How do I go? And, I was blessed to be able to take her. And, she found out that it wasn't as bad as she thought. And, off she went. That made me feel very proud of her.
Oh, man, absolutely lovely being able to go with your daughter to her very first choir practice. Absolutely fantastic. Being there, that rock, that support, letting her know that, hey, listen, it's going to be great. And she came back and recognized that it's all good. So appreciate you sharing that with us. And also kind of once again, telling us where you are in the US. Absolutely fantastic. And so here's the thing, Alex, and I know we're just meeting like literally first time ever, but one of the things that most people know, and everybody here in the Going Long family, they know this about me already. I am a recovering perfectionist, which means sometimes I try to do things that are like set the bar really high, but sometimes it's not even possible to accomplish the things that I set out, such as tell your entire backstory in like 2.5 seconds. Just absolutely ridiculous. Like, why would I even try that? That's just one of these things. So I'm going to have to ask for your help right from the very beginning. Would love for you to tell your backstory in your own words. And by the way, Alex, you can take a lot more than 2.5 seconds because it's your backstory. You use the time you need. And then secondly, help us out also too by talking to us about some of the major decisions that you've made to get to this point in your journey. And then we'll see where you and I take the conversation from there. So over to you.
Yeah. So backstory is I actually have a degree in graphic design, but had also a passion for economics and just the study of economics and how that impacts people's lives. But I got into this firm, not the firm I'm in now, but about now it's been 16 or 17 years ago, where I started off as a graphic designer, but the people there saw that I knew maybe a bit more than graphic design. I wasn't really the best graphic designer. So I got more into the marketing plans, the business plans, and continued to grow in that role. And so I spent 15 years essentially in consumer finance, running a marketing portfolio for small lending companies. So I learned a lot about finance. I learned a lot about all these specific finance terms that I didn't know anything about coming out of college. But I was always looking for something more, even day one. So I had a side gig. I created a media company and did some cool things there. And then, that I sold that back to the other principal owners of the business. And then I moved on and was like, man, I still need something more. I've been looking for a new job for 15 years. How do I get out of this thing? But they kept giving me promotions. They paid great. Had a lot of fun people I worked with. And so it was very difficult to, just quit and fold up shop and go somewhere else. And I looked a few different times, but I had met a mentor because what had happened is we built our dream house, my wife and I did. And through that, I learned a lot about construction loans and how those work, along with leveraging your own wealth, even to build your own home. And through that, we did a really great job of building our dream house, and it was worth a heck of a lot more than what it cost us to build. And so with that, we took out a large home equity line of credit, and I started buying investment property. I bought a duplex, I bought a 5-plex. And then through this journey, I still had this other full-time job. But through this journey, I had met a person who owned a lot of houses in a very specific neighborhood of Kansas City next to Rockhurst University. And he had said, I'm not going to sell you this house, but man, you're very persistent. And that's kind of my shtick, so to speak, is I just keep, being persistent. And he said, we should meet up. And I said, what are we going to talk about? He said, I don't know, but we should meet up. So I was like, okay, sure. Why not? So we met up and, I told him, I spilled my beans to him, my life story, my goals, et cetera. He says, you need to go out and get your real estate license. And I said, I have absolutely no interest in selling a home to anybody. He said, no, I'm talking about commercial real estate. Here's a 4-second spiel on it. And so whatever reason that clicked, and I went out within a month, studied for the exam, got my exam. Actually, Logan Freeman, who I know you've had on your show, yep. He's the one that recruited me over to where he was working at because we had a connection. We're both passionate about working with buyers. And long story short, he told me about the 1031 exchange. process and how that really helps accelerate real estate investors' wealth. And I was like, okay, wow, this is perfect. Let's do this. We met up, we started our own brokerage together, and here we are now helping 1031 exchange buyers.
Wow, man, that's absolutely fantastic. And just think about that. We started the conversation not with you taking your daughter to her first choir practice. And now we're talking about how you are continuing. So you helped this morning, and now you're helping buyers and through the 1031 exchange and have a plethora of experience through that. But I want to come back to maybe one of the things that you mentioned before, but I'm going to maybe twist it around a little bit. So you were when you got started, right? You were in the design space. You knew that you had maybe a strong passion for the economics side of things. And you continued down that path, right? Through the design. Mm-hmm. But when was it that you allowed yourself to say, hey, listen, I know that I have this passion on the inside, and I know that I have this study that I've done, that you said, hey, listen, it's okay to kind of pivot and do something else where my heart is really calling me. And the reason I asked the question, right, just the context is a lot of people today are in roles that they know are not filling their soul, mm-hmm. and they're not allowing themselves to pivot. So what was it that gave you the energy to pivot?
Well, I was blessed to have a person that I worked with who really saw and said, hey, look, you're pretty good at other things. Mm. You're a fine designer or whatever, but I can tell that you ask the right questions. You ask tough questions. And I think I have some other roles for you. Mm. So that really helped from a career standpoint. Even, in college, the goal always was to, at that time, I was going to have my own amazing graphic design studio. I was going to start out here with this firm that did all these graphic design things and media things, but I was always going to have my own graphic design studio. At least that's what I thought then. But just having somebody that saw some potential, really kind of helped me. And I know there's so many people that are in more of a dead end job. I've had a lot of horrible bosses too. I was there for 16 years. There were some good bosses and some really bad bosses. And so I've been in that position where you've got somebody who won't let you really, or doesn't really see who you are or let you get to where you want to be. And I think I don't know how best to fight through that other than to continue pursuing that something more than what you're doing. Don't give up on yourself. Because there were definitely times where I was giving up on myself in terms of, hey, look, this isn't right for me. I should just, quit and go find something else. But just keep turning over those rocks is the best advice I can give from being stuck in a place that maybe isn't your favorite.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that. And it does so much when you have a leader in an organization that recognizes a skill that you may have that you are not actually using to the best of your ability. And then being able to listen to that as the person who reports to someone in a big organization, right? I spent 26 years working for really big companies. But it is it is a great opportunity to have a leader that helps you recognize that and then will also help to foster that. So appreciate you sharing that and just giving us the full context. So that's absolutely fantastic. So we also talked about how you're helping buyers. You also happen to know that the Going Long podcast, well, for about a decade, I was working in a really big company. And at the same time, that was during the day, right? And it was really demanding and all this kind of stuff. And early in the morning and late at night, I was building my own business for, I didn't think it was going to be a business, but eventually it showed up being that. And what has happened is I've done all of this always from overseas. But at the same time, most of the books that I read said, hey, listen, you have to actually live in the same place that you invest. Well, I fundamentally don't believe that's the case. You can do it, absolutely can do it. You know a lot of people that are doing it that way. But there is something to be said for being able to have the confidence to invest beyond your backyard. I know that you happen to do that, helping people, buyers, invest beyond their backyard. Maybe you could talk to us a little bit about also too, what is it that helped you realize like, hey, you don't just have to invest where you live. You can also invest in other places and being able to help to attract people's attention. But maybe talk to us a little bit about how you became comfortable with that and then also how you're helping buyers do that today?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, and there's a little bit of a twist on this question, which is interesting, is, always look to your backyard first, right? And whatever's in your backyard, can I make it work? And a lot of times it's no, I can't make it. I can't make the investment work in my backyard. And then you turn out and you go, okay, I can't make it work in my backyard. Where should I go? Well, then you start looking at, where have I been? What do I like? What kind of people do I like? What's affordable to me? What's affordable to the people that I like? Do I have family in these locations? Do I have some kind of connection to that area? And then even if I don't have these connections, again, what kind of people do I like? What kind of environment do I want to be in? And so that really shapes your mind of where to invest. Where do you feel very comfortable in? And there are so many people, as you know, that are in places where you talked about at the beginning of this question, right? You can't invest, or you really shouldn't invest in where you're at. And so finding that team, a team of people that can help you. And it's not like your day-to-day some of it is your day-to-day, but it's not like you have to go in and go day one, I need to know exactly who I'm going to work with, who I'm going to work for, who's my boots on the ground. But you're establishing that over time and helping get people comfortable. We do that a lot here at Exchange CRE, where we help find a local lender. Even if you're from out of state or overseas or wherever, there are still local lenders that know that game and can help you out. Property manager, obviously, contractors, attorneys, believe it or not, and also, believe it or not, insurance companies that really have their pulse on what they're going to insure and at good rates. And having a point person, using an agent like myself in a market, is very helpful, because first you might be like, okay, this person's like he's just a car salesman, he's just an agent. Well, we're not that kind of firm, and there's a lot of real estate agents that aren't that way. They want to help establish your team because they want repeat business. It's not about getting the sale and being done. And so use your agent to really establish your team. And use your agent to really help understand the numbers of that market, because every market has a very different look to taxes and insurance and, what to expect on even property management and vacancies and all those things. You've got to know it's not the same as what's in your backyard. So hopefully you can find somebody that can help you get that situation cleared up for you.
Fantastic. We appreciate that. And it really is about, okay, you look around and is it working where you are? Well, yes, no. And then based on that, you kind of start moving down the track. And ultimately, it is about being able to connect with the team to be able to help with the acquisition of an asset, to be able to ultimately get you to whatever benefit that you're looking for in the location that makes the most sense for you. So I want to just kind of take a breath real quick, because we're getting ready to have you talk to us about something that I think you know just a little bit about. And that is, because it's something we haven't really talked about, I don't think, in quite a long time. And that is one of the tools that can help anyone get to your destination, right? We talk a lot here, Alex, about, there is no one specific investment vehicle that's the perfect vehicle. It really is about understanding, pretty much to the point you were talking about earlier, like, what is the destination that you're trying to get to? Are you trying to retire early? Are you trying to pay for, parents' assisted living? Are you trying to make sure that you have enough money for your kids' college? Do you want to travel around the world once a year and know that it's coming from investments that you made? Whatever that destination is for you, there are a number of different vehicles that can help you get to that destination much sooner, as long as you understand the vehicle, et cetera, et cetera. You have a very particular expertise in the area of the 1031 exchange. I would love for you just to maybe, because some people maybe never even heard of it before. So what is the 1031 exchange, and when is the best time to use this type of vehicle? And then don't worry, we're going to go down in a rabbit hole. So everybody get ready, get your pens and paper out, because, Alex is going to give us a masterclass today on the 1031 exchange. But help us understand, what is it and when would we use it?
Yeah. So a 1031 exchange is a federal IRS tax code that allows a real estate investor to sell a property that they own and defer all taxes on the capital gains of that property by buying another property, a replacement property, at equal or greater value. And you have 45 days to identify 3 properties, and you have 6 months, 180 days to close out 1, 2, or 3 of those properties. And that's the main requirements for 1031 exchange, what it does. So in short, it's a wealth building tool because you're deferring all of your capital gains until another time. Oh, by the way, if you die, those gains die with you, meaning your heirs don't pay taxes on that. And so anyway, that's the 1031 exchange in a nutshell.
All right, fantastic. 1031 exchange in a nutshell. I'm going to ask a couple other questions, but you know what, Alex? I forgot to tell everybody something really, really quickly, and it's super important. Alex is going to be sharing, because I'm going to be asking him questions, so he's going to be sharing with us different examples and different ideas. The things that he's talking about and sharing with us today, you absolutely must take these ideas, concepts, and examples and speak to your own tax professional and understand how they will fit into your specific situation. And when you want to know more about it, because maybe you don't have that person that's either a tax professional or a 1031 exchange expert, I'm going to guess that Alex is going to probably give you a way to have another conversation with him so he can also help to walk you through this. But just as a general statement, what we're talking about are concepts and ideas, and really want to help to educate you so that you can then go and find out how this will apply to your specific situation. So, so a couple things, Alex. So you mentioned, and I want to try and make this as practical as possible for people. So I'm getting ready to sell an investment property. That property is going to cost me, I don't know, $1 million. The $1 million property that I sell, and I know that I want to be able to defer the taxes that would be on that, because maybe I bought it for half that price. So it was $500,000, whatever. And so if I understood you correctly, then I have 45 days to identify 3 properties. When is that 45 days, and what is that actually? Is that from the time of sell, from the time I'm thinking about selling?
Yep. So that 45-day window starts the moment it closes. So your property you talked about, the $1 million property, you've got $500,000 at risk for capital gains tax. Mm-hmm. You have 45 days to identify 3 properties. And there's zero leeway in that 45-day window. That 45th day could be on Christmas, could be on New Year's, your birthday, you're dying, whatever, mom's funeral. IRS doesn't care. That's 45 days. Mm-hmm. And the other key part to this, it's not just like, hey, look, I closed this thing out, title's got my info, but you have to actually have a qualified intermediary. There's a bunch of them out there, of course, with recommendations. Qualified intermediary can be almost anybody, and it can also be national. So we've got some great people in California and Florida that, even though we're located in Missouri, they can do it anywhere. It's a federal IRS tax code. Doesn't matter what state. And as part of that, you cannot take constructive control of the funds of those gains. So that has to stay with a qualified intermediary, with an escrow account, essentially, to where you're not touching them. You don't have access to it because you cannot take any kind of control, make money on it, put it in stocks, do whatever. It's got to stay with a qualified intermediary. Otherwise, the exchange is off and now your taxes due on that.
Okay. So important point then. So it means that I can't just be thinking about this, or typically I shouldn't just be thinking about this. I close on the property, it hits my bank account, and then I go, hey, you know what? 45 days from now, I've identified property A, B, and C. This all needs to be thought about in advance of, so that the day that the property is actually disposed of or sold, then the funds actually go into some type of a specific escrow type of account and not into my bank account. Is that correct?
That's absolutely right. You got to be, before it closes, lined up with your qualified intermediary, and know that you're not going to have any access to these funds. That's the big piece to it before you close.
Okay. All right. So then the funds go. Then you mentioned something else. There was 180 days that we could look at the properties that we've identified. And I think you said up to 3 properties. Now, does that 180 days start from the end of the 45 days, or is it included in that 45 days?
Yeah. So the 180 days starts also the moment that you close. So you have 180 days from the date that you close on your down leg. We call it a down leg on your property you're selling, your relinquished property, to close out 1, 2, or 3 of those properties that you have identified or going to identify.
Okay, fantastic. So we've got 45 days that we need to identify 3 properties, and then another 137 days from there 135 days from there that we actually need to close on one of the said properties or all of the said properties, I guess, as long as we are consuming the entire, in this fictitious example, the entire $1 million. Is that correct?
Right. Exactly.
I trust you're enjoying today's conversation. If you want to find out more about how to make your 9-to-5 optional, just go to billykeels.com/advising. Once again, that's billykeels.com/advising. Now back to the conversation. So with that, we've given a very simple idea. So we've talked about what it is. So, and I know you've kind of already said what the type of strategy is, but I'm sitting here thinking, well, I've never heard of this thing before. I've heard of this like-kind exchange before. Is it the same thing? Is it not? I'd love for you to answer that question. And also, when is the situation that I would consider using this tool?
Yep. So the first thing to answer your question, yes, 1031 exchange is the same thing as a like-kind exchange. It also used to be kind of called a Starker exchange. But anytime you usually hear 1031 or like-kind exchange, that's exactly what it is. And what it means is you can go in and out of any real estate investment property that you own into any other kind or the same. So you could buy farmland, you could sell farmland and buy apartments or office building or whatever. You can't buy stocks, but you can buy real estate active investing. And so from there, then you're talking about, okay, what's a reason for maybe doing this? What's a strategy for doing this? And of course, I've got a whole bunch of examples of how this is best used. But there are so many people out there that might have either a real estate investment that they don't like because it's causing them headaches, problems, stress. They've got a real estate investment they've owned for a long period of time, or they've got a piece of property in, let's say, California that has very high appreciation. In your example, you bought it for $500,000, it's worth $1 million. Maybe that was in only 2 years. You have $500,000 in equity that's not making you any more money than it was the 2 years prior when you bought it. So the reason why you do an exchange is you want to increase your return on your equity. So you take that additional $500,000. So you've got this million plus this $1 million that you're selling, and you have $500,000 in there. You can actually go out in a market like Kansas City and buy something for $2 million and cash flow 3 to 4 times what you were cash flowing with your property that you have right now. So that's the reason why you do an exchange, is to get out of either something you don't like, or you've got a lot of untapped equity that you can go out and sell that and exchange into something that's going to generate a lot more cash for you.
Fantastic. So appreciate the explanation. One of the questions that someone may have is, hey, listen, I've been still thinking about getting in this real estate game. You talked about it has to be like a like kind. It's a real asset. But imagine kids are just left the house. They're all out in college paid for, and I have my primary residence. And I want to go from primary residence. And I actually, now I've kind of waited for a long time. And now I actually want to get into this rental real estate game. Have you seen examples where I can take my primary residence and that sell, and I take the proceeds from that sell to then become an owner in rental real estate? And whether that is, maybe it's for that example I gave you, and I actually want to buy a couple of smaller multifamily properties. Can I use the proceeds to buy something that is now rental real estate if it comes from or have you seen examples that way?
Yeah, so in that situation, you don't need to utilize likely a 1031 exchange because you've lived in that property 2 of the last 5 years. And so there's some better vehicles for you to utilize. It's not an exchange. It's a personal exemption type of exchange, so to speak. There is a cap on it. I think the cap is, $250,000 or $500,000 on what you're deferring as gains. So it just depends on where you're at, if you've lived in the property, et cetera, but you can definitely upgrade.
Okay, fantastic. And the question is kind of a trick question, but it goes back to what you were talking about before. This is about commercial real estate. So it's being able to help those that are in the commercial real estate space be able to continue to have a tax deferral strategy, which is one of the things that we talked about. So this is my thought. There's no perfect vehicle, right? And here we help to educate so everyone feels comfortable and confident being able to invest beyond their backyard. You've talked to us about some of actually what the 1031 exchange is, i.e. like-kind exchange. But maybe from your perspective, if you could tell us some of the things that you continue to see and hear as an expert in this area that are real pros to the 1031 exchange, and maybe some of the things that could be a drawback to the 1031 exchange, or at least could be perceived that way.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, the pro, of course, is I think it's the best wealth building tool anybody can use to grow their portfolio. The example we gave is a great one. You're taking your $500,000 in untapped equity and turning that into pretty easily a $2 million purchase. Maybe you go from 2 units in that scenario to 10 or 20 units. So that's a very good wealth building tool. And deferring taxes is, of course, amazing. There's nothing else I can think of where I can take $500,000 that I have that is essentially, it's not tax free at all. It's deferring. But if you plan on dying with it, then it kind of is to a degree. So there's that aspect of it. That's a pro. A pro is it doesn't cost very much. Even if you're doing a 1031 exchange and it's $10 million worth, usually these exchange qualified intermediaries, they have a flat fee for it. It might be a couple $1,000, maybe $5,000. It's basically nothing. So it's pretty low risk, because even if you decide, hey, look, at the end of this, I don't want to do a 1031 exchange, you can still just go ahead and pay taxes. You call your qualified intermediary, say, hey, look, I changed my mind and I'll just pay taxes on the gains. And that's very acceptable. So those are the main pros. The cons, the perceived cons, there's, of course, those two, one of which is, let's say you bought a property at a 5% cap rate, or let's say you bought it at an 8% cap rate. Well, now you're selling that property for a 5% cap rate, and it's going to be pretty dang difficult to go out there and buy another 8% cap rate property. So the perceived risk of that is very, doesn't look good on paper. Mm-hmm. But really, when you're doing a 1031 exchange, it's not about the cap rate. It's about getting another level up. So you're getting better wealth through it. You don't have to hit a home run in exchange. You've already hit a home run in the property you're selling, likely, especially if you've got, several $100,000 extra in appreciated equity. So it's not about hitting a home run. It's about hitting another nice single or a double or whatever to get you some another level in your wealth building journey. I'll say that.
All right. Absolutely fantastic. So I appreciate you being able to break that down for us. What are the perceived pros? What are the perceived cons? And then also how you are able to navigate this. So one of the other things, and before we get into the going along final three, so we kind of talked about it before, but if you could just help us in terms of the process. So help us to understand that person who has a piece of commercial real estate, they've seen that there's this increase in equity. They want to get the highest return on equity as possible. They want to also be able to have a strategy where they can defer their the gains, the taxes on the gains. But you've also talked about these intermediaries. Like, when should we actually be engaging with the person that's going to help us with the 1031 exchange?
Yep. So that usually I recommend either before you sell your like before you decide to list your property or to really sell it, somewhere in that range, obviously well before it closes. You need a good week to 10 days before it closes. So it's under contract, due diligence is up, et cetera. Those 10 days before that at the very latest, just so they have your funds and money, et cetera. So that's that there. Now, okay, now you're in the 1031 exchange process. The property closes. Okay, so now you have 45 days. Mm-hmm. And my recommendation with identifying your 3 properties is to get 3 of them at least to your qualified intermediary pretty quickly. And the reason why I say that is it gets back to my example of, hey, look, IRS doesn't care if your mom died on your 45th day or you broke your back or in a car accident. If you get 3 properties to that qualified intermediary, you can always change your mind. And people often do. So you can come in on that 45th day, midnight of that 45th day, and provide 3 new properties to your qualified intermediary. Of course, you got to talk to your qualified intermediary, see when their cutoff time is. But the IRS cutoff time is midnight. Now, I don't know if that's midnight local time or central time or European Central Time or wherever that might be. But that's another reason why we like to put people with really good qualified intermediaries, because they know the full limits of the 1031 exchange.
Okay, so does that mean then, and I'll get really tactical here. So does that mean if I've been looking in the Kansas City market, it's one that I really like, the 2.2 million people, there's a lot of job diversification, there's a lot of net migration that's positive, there's all the metrics that we need to look at are in the right direction. And I am interested, I live in state wherever, not Missouri, and I'm interested in Kansas City, and I have this tax deferral strategy that you're talking to me about. I'm thinking about putting a property on the market in about a month. Would I reach out to you now? I say you, but meaning as the person who's in the Kansas City market that has a 1031 exchange, or do I reach out to the person who's the 1031 exchange in my backyard about the property that is in the location, which is Kansas City?
The best option is to reach out to someone like myself, me in Kansas City, right? Because I'm going to help you. I even have some strategies that can help you with your property that has nothing to do with me in my region, but I can even help you negotiate some contract terms just to get the best bang for your buck on your exchange process. And I can introduce you to a great qualified intermediary. And I can also start helping look at maybe what you're going to be exchanging into here in KC, which is important because that 45 days sounds like it's kind of a long time-ish. I got 45 days. Well, I mean, think about all the weekends, think about all your kids' stuff, all that kind of stuff. So that thing, blows by very, very quickly. And if I'm in here knowing and can put properties in front of you that says, hey, look, what do you think of this one? What do you think of that one? Before your property sells or is even under contract, that's of high value, because then when your property does sell, you've got your 3 properties already identified. And usually we try to coach people to get past due diligence even before your 45-day identification period's up. So your risk of paying taxes on something that you didn't want to pay taxes on is very low.
Yeah. So, okay. So that makes a lot of sense. And then I just want to get one clarification, and then we'll get into going along final 3. Earlier, and someone may have heard you say, that you go to the 45 days, but then you're at like the 44th day and 18th hour, right? Did I understand you to say that at the 44th day and 18th hour that I can change the 3 properties and add 3 new properties and start the 45-day period all over again? Or the new properties have to be closed within the next 6 hours to finish the 45 days?
Great question. So you only have 45 days, but you can change your mind during that 45 days as many times as you want. So in that scenario, you can change all 3 properties to be your new ideas for your properties, but there's no clock that restarts. It's over at that 45 days, no matter what. Buzzer goes off. That's it. Those are your 3 in the book. You got to close on one or all 3 of those within the next, whatever you said, 135 days.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. You have those 3. And you have the opportunity to add, provided you go through your intermediary, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, perfect. Appreciate that. Thing is, Alex, listen, man, I want to keep talking to you. I want to keep asking you questions because you are adding so much value to the Going Long family today. But the thing is, I got to get us to the Going Long final 3, man. We got to get to the Going Long final 3. And the thing is, I never ask any of our guests, and today you're our special guest. Never ask you to go along final 3 unless you tell me that you're ready for me to ask you. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
I knew that was going to be the answer. I mean, there was no doubt about it. It was going to be, of course you're ready. So here's the thing. We talked about you being over in KC. And although I'm a guy from the Midwest, from Columbus, Ohio originally, I've actually been over here in Europe for like the last 21 years, at least when we're recording this. So I would love for you to tell me and the Going Long family, like coming back to this side of the pond, as they like to say, What is your favorite European city that you've either visited or is still on your bucket list to visit?
That's an easy one for me. My wife would disagree, but Rome. I love Rome. It's an amazing city. I'm not a history buff, so to speak, but I love the idea of history, the Colosseum, everything that goes on there, all the food, all just, you've got this 2,000, 5,000-year-old city with still some 2,005-year-old stuff in it. I love that city, and I would love to go back soon. And I'd also love to go to, believe it or not, Barcelona, Spain.
Hey, Alex, Barcelona, whenever you want to come over here, man, just let me know. Just give me a couple days. We'll connect. I'll show you around my new adopted hometown. And yes, Rome is the eternal city. It is such a wonderful place. And we're going to add that one to the list. We'll go with Rome because you were talking about Rome a little bit more. And yes, we're ready for you to come visit us here in Barcelona when you're ready. Question number 2. And Alex, the thing about question number 2, it's a pretty special question because it's one of these questions where I reflect on a lot of the really good fortune that I've had because not just being here, but a lot of the people I've interacted with in my 26-year corporate career and now in this space. And I've noticed that the people, like I've just met a lot of really successful people, right? And hopefully you'll agree with me. But one of the things that I've noticed about successful people and their ability to actually get things done is that successful people, unlike most people, when they put their mind to something, they get these plans, they put the plans together, and then they go out and they execute against those plans. And those plans, from the very first time that they execute against them, they get them right perfectly the first time, which allows them to go much faster.
I heard about that.
I think I just got stage fright. No, I'm kidding. It's a joke. You guys should check Alex out. He's looking at me like, no, you got to check out the video. The video version, he's like, no, definitely not. No, of course not, Alex, of course not. It's kind of a joke. I like to have fun here. The thing is, successful people, well, they're just like everybody else. Well, not really, because they tend to make probably 20 to 50 times more mistakes or have learning opportunities than most people because they're trying stuff all the time. The first part was a joke. This is definitely not a joke because one of the things that I have recognized about people that are very successful is every single time that they have a learning opportunity, they make a mistake, however you want to call it, almost without fail, they stop, they learn from that mistake. And then what they do after that is absolutely amazing. They go out and they put different strategies, tactics, and actions in place to minimize the probability of that exact same thing happening again. So what I'd love for you to share with us is not really it's not the mistake that happened, but it's more about what is the lesson that you were able to take away that that we need to hear today at the Going Long family to minimize the probability of that exact same mistake happening to us.
So here's the mistake I made, just real quick. I put all my eggs in one basket. I was going to be this Airbnb master, have 10, 15, 20 huge Airbnb houses in Kansas City. And so I bought 4 of these houses, and it was a horrible decision because pandemic was right around the corner, cost a lot more than I thought it would to furnish these houses. But the reason why I did it was I was so desperate to get out of my day job. I was so hopeful that maybe if I had these houses and all this supposed money coming in, I'd be able to quit my day job. And so my lesson from that was you cannot get desperate. You cannot be desperate in how you try to get out of your situation. And you have to be methodical. You have to listen to others. You have to make good decisions that are for your long-term wealth building activities. And I'm not a fad person. I rarely fall into fads, buying the latest and greatest or doing the latest and greatest and all these other things. But in that situation, I felt like I was doing something so smart. And because I was desperate. And thankfully, I learned from that, pivoted, was still able to keep a lot of that real estate, but I had to give a lot of it back, to be honest. And but I learned a lot from that, got my license from that experience, really. And, I'm a lot more successful because of it.
Yeah, I love that, man. And it's just that piece of reality, which is, it takes time. Trying to put all your eggs in one basket, rap fast paced, it can work out. But the reality is, be slow and steady wins the race. And that's just, it's just the reality. So appreciate you sharing that with us. I know you're helping someone out there today, if not multiple someones. And so lastly, Alex, I just want to have you help us feed our minds. I know you're also a big fan of books and literature and things like that. So help us understand, what's the one book that you would recommend to the Going Long family today?
It is Am I Being Too Subtle by Sam Zell. And if you're not familiar with him, he's a billionaire real estate investor. If you read his book, I also recommend listening to it. He reads it, in audible form, which is pretty dang cool. We got to listen to it about, two times the speed, because he's kind of slow on it. But it is so insightful in talking about how he came, how he grew up. He talks a lot about his mistakes, but he also talked a lot about how he found ways to make deals work, which is, applies to me as an investor, but almost even more as a broker. Because there are so many people that want to find ways to, that doesn't work for me. That doesn't work for me. But he always looked at it as, what is it that can be done in this real estate transaction to make this deal work? And sometimes there isn't, but he always looked for that. And that's how I always look for things too.
Yeah. No, absolutely fantastic. So Am I Being Too Subtle? Sam Zell. Yeah, and you definitely need to know who Sam Zell is, because he's person who's kind of made a couple things happen once or twice with the real assets. So, Alex, man, these conversations literally fly by. Like, I cannot even, like, we were just like a couple seconds ago, we were talking about you taking your daughter to her first choir mat, or first choir session, and you being there to be a support for her. And then from there, you also started to tell us about the passion that you had for economics, even though you were in design. And as you were in design and you had this passion for economics, you were very fortunate because you had someone who was in a position that recognized that you also had other talents. And so as you were able to, in a corporate environment or setting, you were able to explore your talents, had the right leadership that was there, that was helping you to draw these things out. You were also got to a point where you said, hey, look, you know what? 15 years, done this, know this stuff. You also had the opportunity to build your dream home. Once you built your dream home, you realized that, hey, listen, there's a lot of different things that are out there. You were able to use things like HELOCs to pull out, to actually get into the investing game, the duplexes, the quadplexes. And you started recognizing that there are so many different opportunities that you can actually be able to add value to others. You also had the right support system that also helped to point you in the right direction. And today, not only are you continuing to use a lot of the economic background and the financial understanding background and your love for people and understanding how you're solving problems, you're able to do that today, and even demonstrated it really well by helping guide us through the 1031 exchange and how this particular vehicle can help our Going Long family to get closer to their destination. You gave us some of the different use cases, the pros, the perceived cons, and things like that. And so, like, everybody's just saying, Billy, just stop talking and ask him the question, for goodness sake. So here, I'm going to ask you the question. Everybody wants to know, Alex, how in the world can the Going Long family get in touch with you, find out more about what it is that you're doing at Exchange Commercial Real Estate, and so that we can connect with you, and also at Blue Equity Investments?
Yeah, so I love talking to people on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn, Alex Olson, A. Olson. I'm all over it. And of course, check out my website, exchangecre.com, and then email me directly, alex@exchangecre. Talk to you about wealth building activities through the 1031 exchange, a passion of mine. I can't wait to hear from you.
All right. Absolutely fantastic. So everybody go check him out. He makes it really easy, exchangecre.com. And make sure that when you reach out to Alex on LinkedIn, and yes, he's extremely active there, do yourself a favor. Send him a personalized invitation and let him know that you heard him here on the Going Long podcast, so that it makes your conversation so much easier, because guess what? He's going to know that you've already invested listening and understanding about how he can potentially help you. So from there, listen, Alex, I just want to say thank you very much on behalf of the entire Going Long family. Really appreciate you investing your time with us today, and wishing you continued success. And thank you very much.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
All right, perfect. Give me just like 10 seconds, Alex. I'm going to wrap things up with the Going Long family. Hey, listen, everybody, I don't know if I could make it even any better. Like Alex literally left it all here. He gave you the pros, he gave you the cons, he gave you a real example that he was talking about so that you can either reach out to him or talk to your tax professional and your exchange professional to understand how this could potentially be a vehicle that you can use. Take today's episode, share it. Talk about it. Talk about the concepts that you're hearing so that you go from theory to actual practical knowledge. And while you're doing that, I'll be here preparing the next conversation. So until then, go out and make it a great day. And thank you very much. Freedom! Today's conversation was sponsored by the Billy Keels Advisory Program. If you're looking to make your 9-to-5 optional and need some help, just go to billykeels.com/advising. Once again, that's billykeels.com/advising.